Hey carnivores, SB fam, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Bella the Steak and Butter Gal. I hope you all are having a good day so far. As always, please do update me on how you guys are doing on your carnivore journeys. Have you seen or felt any victories? Are you struggling with anything in particular? I would love to know how you guys are doing down below in the comments. For even more carnivore content, tips, and recipes, feel free to follow me on Instagram at Steak and Butter Gal. Today's video features my biggest personal inspiration when it comes to the carnivore lifestyle. It was all thanks to her for sharing her story so openly that I decided to give Carnivore Diet a try. She really doesn't need any more introduction than that, because if you are a carnivore or you are even remotely in the carnivore community, you know of this woman, Kelly Hogan, the Kelly Hogan. I got to talk to one of my biggest inspirations. And in return, the best I can do is give her an amazing interview experience here on my channel, which you guys will watch soon in the video, and also feature her in my August 30-day carnivore challenge. It's actually the fourth or fifth time that I have featured her as one of my guest speakers, but every single time she comes on, the community is so excited. And we also learn so much from her every time she answers our questions. So if you would like to attend her live guest Q&A and get to meet Kelly Hogan on Zoom live, come join the August 30-day carnivore challenge. I'll also put up the entire guest lineup for the month, so feel free to go to spgmeetup.com for more details and how to join. Without further ado, let me invite on my special guest, the Kelly Hogan. Kelly, how are you doing? Welcome.
Hey Bella, so good. It's great to see you. I thought about you all weekend because I was in New Jersey, and last year we were there together and it was awesome. This year, but I missed you. Your presence was felt, though. It really was.
Well, I say this all the time. Whenever I get interviewed about the carnivore diet and my experience, I always say that one of the major inspirations for me to go carnivore was you, Kelly Hogan, was your story. Literally your bravery and boldness to share your carnivore experience on so many platforms, podcast channels. And on top of that, I was able to relate to so many aspects of your story, your struggles, for example, binge eating, sugar and processed food addiction, your skin issues. For me, it was like acne, cystic acne. For you, I know it was extreme boils. I want to deep dive into all of it. But the first question I'd love for you to share, how did you find the carnivore diet 12 and a half years ago?
Well, thank you for all of that, Bella. So 17 and a half years ago, my doctor told me that carbs were my problem. I was having all of these boils. I was also on acne meds, Accutane, which is a pretty harsh drug.
Yeah.
I was feeling miserable. I was over 260 pounds. I was also 25 years old. I was young to be in that bad of shape. And my doctor said, I don't even have to run a CRP test. He said that. He said, I can prove it to you now with the CRP, but you are inflamed and it is coming out in the form of obesity and boils. He said, and we're going to keep cutting these boils open. That's called lancing and draining. It was awful until you lose at least 100 pounds. Well, water works. And so at that point, at age 25, he explained to me what carbohydrates were and said that I could eat as much meat, eggs, dairy, and he said leafy greens. He also said that very low carb vegetables like pickles, well, cucumbers, pickles, green beans. He said at that point that would be fine. Quote, leafy greens wouldn't kill you. Okay. So I don't like leafy greens, Bella. I never did. I didn't get to 262 pounds by eating leafy greens. I did like pickles and I was okay with green beans. At that point, I ate them because I thought like that sounds healthier, but I didn't know. So age 25 to 30, I ate almost exclusively meat, some green beans, some pickles, but mostly meat. And I was still having diet soda and some sugar-free Jell-O. Wow. That was my diet. For 5 years. I did not have a community. I was a total island. Nobody. And then in 2009, and by the way, that went pretty well in some ways for weight loss. Yeah. I'll say without carbs, just eating meat and a little bit of low carb veggies, I definitely lost weight. And I did not have a single boil after that. So that was enough to fix like the major issues. Here's what it didn't fix. My cycle. I was not fertile. I had no cycle at that point.
Wow.
It did not fix. Oh, I had some sternum inflammation. It's called costochondritis. When it would hit, the flares were so bad. The first time, James rushed me to the emergency room with a police escort because we got pulled over. And he's like, we have to go. I couldn't breathe. I thought I was dying. So it didn't fix that level of inflammation, but it did fix the boils. And the worst thing was I had intense cravings for 5 years. It did not fix that. It made that worse. So like nail biting, wanted sugar for 5 years straight. All right. October 2009, I was feeling good about how my body was looking, but not good about how long can I do this?
Oh.
I can't keep this up much longer because I was exhausted from not eating sugar. You know, that wears on you after a while. So I went online and I was starting to realize I think I feel better on the days when I don't eat the green beans and the pickles or the sugar-free Jell-O. So my Google search was, is it healthy or is it safe to only eat meat? Because that's about where I was by October. And the first thing I saw was a forum. It was not Facebook. It was a website called Zeroing In on Health, and it was run by Charles Washington. And when I clicked on it, there were journals there. Every person had an individual journal. So Charles had his own, Dana Spencer Shute had her own, Dr. Lisa Wiedemann, Amber O'Hearn, Joe Anderson, Charlene Anderson, like, boom, my mind was blown. There were probably, 200 carnivores there at that time, each with their own journal. And every single one I opened was full of before and after pictures and their daily rantings about how much they love meat and how great they feel. And that was day one for me. Yeah. Sold. I didn't even know this was a thing, but because of my doctor, I've been eating pretty much just meat for 5 years. And they were like, welcome to your tribe. They were so cool. They didn't call it tribe. They were so excited for me. And all these comments started coming on my before and after pictures. And then they said, isn't the freedom from cravings the best part? Me. What? No. What freedom? That's where it was like, what are they talking about? Yeah. And I said, oh, no, I still have intense cravings. That has not gotten better. And they were all confused. They said, well, what are you eating exactly? Yeah. And that's when I said, oh, well, I still have Diet Dr. Pepper.
Oh, so there you go.
And they were like, ding, ding, ding. Okay, well, there's the problem. You are getting great results. And they were sweet about it. They're like, you look great, but we hate to tell you, you're going to have cravings forever as long as you're sipping Diet Dr. Pepper. Yeah. And this was totally news to me. It said carb zero. That's all I had been operating on is no carbs. The doctor said no carbs. I did no carbs. And it was helpful. Very helpful. I'll give it that. Of course. And so that's when they said, it's the sweet taste. If it touches your tongue and it tastes sweet, it is going to fire something in your brain that's going to make you want more and more, and you will never get enough. It's an itch you cannot scratch. That was 12 and a half years ago. It was my last taste of Diet Dr. Pepper or anything sweeter than heavy cream. Heavy cream to me now still tastes sweet, but it's not enough to make me like mind blown. Well, kind of. I love it. I do love it, but I can put it down. It is very filling, unlike Diet Dr. Pepper. Yes. So I'm still friends with all of the ones that I just listed. It's been 12 and a half years, and they are still incredibly supportive and very much carnivore out there, sharing the message with you.
So profound. Literally, this story just gives me so much happiness because when I first started off, the things that you would touch on with your interviews, I would be like, that is what I'm going through right now. But I also want to be where Kelly arrived at, which is food freedom, the best weight that she's been, her best health, her best mood, all of it. So where to go next? You touched on such great topics. Okay. So since you've been carnivore for 12 and a half years, you truly are one of the few OGs of the carnivore community. I would love to know, in your eyes, how has the carnivore diet, I guess, evolved over this last decade?
Well, you might think it's just meat and water, like how much evolution could there be? But you're wrong, because it does look carnivore. First of all, we did not call it carnivore. No one was using the word carnivore, because back then I think carnivore just meant that you ate meat. So my husband is carnivore. He eats meat. He also eats bread. Right. But back in the term carnivore didn't mean that to us. We used the phrase zero carb. It was zero carb. And then they eventually started saying zero carb carnivore. But it really was not until Dr. Baker several years later, when he hit the scene and it exploded, that's when the term carnivore came. It was always, I'm a zero carber.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So the term was different, even though, by the way, we got a lot of flack back then because people would say, well, it's not zero carb because eggs have carbs. And we were like, yeah, we know that.
Right.
It's a term of art. We know. Okay. Back then, seasonings were not used by most zero carbers who ate only animal products, not even salt. So it was very unusual to hear someone say that they still ate salt. And I think part of that was based on the writings of the Bear, if you've ever read about him. Okay. He was a very long time carnivore. He also had some really sketchy lifestyle choices, but a long time carnivore. And he, I think, based his decision to avoid salt mostly on Stephenson and his writings, the New
Out of the Land.
People.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. A lot of people had read his writings and Stephenson's writings, and they came to the conclusion, we're going to do this without salt. Well, now I do not. I feel like if somebody wants the salt to taste, I do, and they feel fine doing it. But there are still some the real OGs that were there before I got there, like Dana Spencer Shute. She does not use any salt to this day, and she's at 13, maybe 14 years now. Wow. So it's still, that is still present, but I know it's not normal today. Now I feel like there's this push. You feeling bad? More salt, buddy. Right. Anything, sleep problems, more salt. But that was not the case back then.
I've definitely learned from my experience and observations being in the carnivore community for almost 4 years now, that when it comes to electrolytes, it is incredibly personal on a few major things. How active you are every day. Are you an athlete, or do you just love building up a sweat, working out, doing Pilates, doing hot yoga? If you are sweating a lot, you will probably need to supplement with electrolytes, or at least salt your meats and carnivore meals heavier. So if you are having symptoms like headaches, low energy, muscle cramping, you probably could benefit from some high quality electrolytes. The ones that I recommend are by the brand Element. It is spelled LMNT, and they have extremely high quality electrolytes. You know exactly what they put in their ingredients. There is zero artificial flavorings, dyes, colorings, only the high quality electrolytes that your body needs. The box that I'm holding here is the flavor that I recommend the most. If you are very prone to your cravings and it's easy for you to be triggered by anything sweet tasting, I highly recommend their blue colored flavor called Raw Unflavored. You all can get a free sample pack with any purchase if you go to the URL on the screen, drinklmnt.com/SBGAL. All of their different flavors, including the flavor that I recommend the most. Check out the URL on the screen. I have also linked it down below in the description box if you would like to click on the link.
It was almost exclusively beef, but we didn't call it Lion Diet. It was just everybody knew they felt better eating beef.
Yeah.
And no carbonated water. I remember one time we went to the very first meetup I ever went to was at Dr. Lisa's house. Yeah. And it was only maybe 4 months after I had found this group, January 2010.
Wow.
Right after I found these people in 2009, at the end of 2009. All right. So we're there, and she had seltzer water. And I was like, can we drink seltzer water? And some people were there like, for special occasions, some of us tolerate seltzer fun. And oh my gosh, it's so good. Well, now I drink seltzer water all the time. But back then it was considered like, a bougie special occasion drink. Wow. And then I heard of somebody drinking one that was lemon flavored. I was like, oh my, that is so French, but I can handle them now too. I don't know what else was really different back then. Oh my gosh. Carnivores, zero carbers did not drink coffee back then. Wow. If somebody said we drink coffee, it would be like, why? What is that about? That is not from an animal. Oh, wow. So again, my own evolution has come a long ways too. People ask me, well, why did you start using seasonings? And it's because several months after I found that group, I got pregnant. Oh. And which was part of the reason I found that group. I wasn't having a cycle, and I really wanted a baby at that point. So I got my cycle back, I got pregnant, and all of a sudden meat tasted awful to me. Wow. And I was like, that's literally my only food. So Charles was really cool. He said, look, we have not had a carnivore pregnancy within this group. We don't really know. He, based on history, knew that groups had obviously had babies. And Charlene Anderson had already had carnivore pregnancies. I just did not know that at that point. She's really private today, and she was really private back then too. They're just very quiet. More private now than then though. And so he was like, look, we haven't gone through this before. Just do what you have to do. And at one point, my doctor was like, look, you need to eat the rainbow because you are risking birth defects and you're risking having hemorrhoids from constipation. And I was like, it was scary. All I wanted was this baby to be healthy. So I talked to Charles Washington about it, and he said, well, you're a human, right? Yes. He said, and you got your health back eating this all meat diet. Yes. He said, and what kind of baby do you hope to give birth to? I was like, what? He said, are you planning on it being human? Yes. He said, I'm just saying, your baby's a human. You're a human.
So you were talking about your carnivore pregnancy. So feel free to go on.
Yes. I was talking about the carnivore pregnancy when my laptop overheated and dumped me into total blackness. So here we are. We have a less beautiful scene, but I do have my cow head here, and that's kind of cool, right? I know. We found it in the woods. Okay. Carnivore pregnancy. So I could not even look at plain meat. This rocked my world. I didn't see that coming. So I decided, I went with what Charles said. And this is what I say to people now. I'm almost glad it happened because it's meat aversions. And my advice is what he told me. Eat the animal products that you can. Just find something you can, whether it's an omelet with, ham and cheese, seasoned meat. And I was like, oh, seasoned meat. Fancy. He said, if you need to use mustard or some hot sauce, I didn't use anything with sugar, but mustard and hot sauce would make it not taste like meat.
Oh,
that was the goal back then. It just couldn't taste like meat for 13 weeks. 13 weeks. I couldn't make it. Even burger patties had to have cheese and hot sauce, eggs, bacon, all of that tasted good. So I went with that.
I love how you describe the evolution of carnivore. It's just so interesting that it started off being so pure, so incredibly strict. And nowadays, when you see carnivore, there's so many different types of camps. There's the Lion's Diet. There's carnivore with whatever sauces and seasonings you love, right? And then there's carnivore with coffee and tea. So I do love how flexible and open it is now. So whatever works for you, which is great. You today, Kelly, you as a carnivore advocate, what do you say to somebody who is interested in the carnivore diet and they're like, well, what do I eat? Am I limited to X, Y, and Z, or can I have all of it? What is your go-to advice?
Yeah, I think there's two different strategies, and I'll typically throw them both out and say which one resonates with you the most, because people within themselves know better than I do what they're going to try. The first method is eat all of the animal products as long as you are getting off a processed food, sugar, and carbohydrate. If you want chicken wings with blue cheese dressing, eat it. If anything animal, have it, but avoid all sweet tastes at all costs. So that's one way to do it. Stuff yourself, stay full, and eat meats that you love. The second thing is, if someone is really sick and having awful issues, whether it's autoimmune or like clearly something, we're not just talking, I want to lose 20 pounds or even 100 pounds. They have problems. Sometimes I will also say the other option is go basically lion diet. Very strict at first, because that idea is just get to a baseline of feeling okay so that you are not in pain. And that's probably the quickest way to get there. And then they can slowly, okay, well, let's try eggs. All right. Eggs went fine. Now you can try cheese. But if they're hurting through the whole process and it's just a matter of going, so you can either start lenient and possibly get stricter, or start really strict and then try to add some things to see how it affects you.
I love it. Now, what about sourcing and quality of meat? What are your advice when it comes to, do I have to get grass-fed, grass-finished, or any meat will do?
So, there are folks that are very passionate about the treatment of animals and about the earth and if that is what adds to your happiness when you eat your food, if that is part of the consideration, and I think that's beautiful. And you can afford to get those meats that meet those higher standards, Oh my gosh, what a great thing to do. I have bought from local ranchers. I've bought half a cow. I've bought grass fed. But there are also plenty of people out there who they may care about those things, but also it's either cheap meat or ramen noodles. Like they're not going to be able to likely just step up and all of a sudden go completely grass finished, the most expensive meats. And to them, I say, you know what? A lot of people completely change their health having never bought grass finished meat. And whatever kind of meat you're eating, in my opinion, is way better than the fake meats and processed foods and factory stuff. So whatever meat makes you feel great, that matters the most. If you can afford it, well, that's going to help. Yes. If it makes you feel good about your food mentally to do something different, then, make yourself feel good mentally and physically. But I eat both. I eat some of the cheapest meats that you can possibly find. And then I'll also enjoy grass finished steak. I'll be honest, I prefer the taste of green finish myself.
Yes.
So it's not just, not just about the price, but it's also, I like the fattier meat. But whatever meat makes somebody happy, I'm happy for you.
Fantastic. And that's what I love about your message is that you make it so easy and simple. And so when people hear you talk about the carnivore diet, they truly feel like I can do it too. If Kelly can do it, I can just eat like her, or I can just buy McDonald's patties because I am busy, I am on a budget, and I can also get healthy. So you instill so much hope in our new carnivores, which is so nice, instead of like almost instilling fear and stress by always saying, oh, you got to eat it like this or only eat that. You know what I mean? So it's great. When starting the carnivore diet, how do we know how much to eat?
Okay. So I know you see this all the time. People will start the carnivore diet and I have women tell me, I'm not feeling that great or something's not right. If you haven't started yet and you're thinking about it, most people start and they're feeling really good within a couple weeks. But if somebody isn't feeling good, I have learned to ask, how much are you eating? Because very frequently they are eating so little. And I think it's because hunger feels so different on a carnivore diet. You're not like hangry. You're not having an intense craving like, oh my gosh, I have to eat something right now. Your blood sugar hasn't tanked. So women think, I'm not hungry. Also, women have been taught eat a palm-sized piece of meat. And we're not used to the idea of, I am a woman that needs food. It's going to be a plate-sized piece of meat, and I'm going to eat it all, and I'm going to feel great. But that's a really big mental barrier for people to get through. And meat and fat is very satiating. So if it knocks the edge off, that's where people are used to living as a dieter. If they're used to being a dieter, knock the edge off of the hunger, and they're like, oh, I'm full. I couldn't eat another bite. But could you? Because I think you could. And so sometimes if someone is thinking, I'm not hungry, I'll say, could you just go take one bite of an animal product? And a lot of times that one bite will inspire them to think, okay, I could eat. Great. There it is. That's hunger. If you could eat plain meat or an egg, you're hungry. And that's just what it feels like. So how much should people eat? How much it takes for them to feel full, to not be thinking about carbs, to sleep through the night. That's another thing. These undereaters cannot make it through the night because it's like trying to make it through an 8-hour journey. They don't have the food to do it. So if they're not sleeping, that's another trigger. If they're not having regular cycles, are you eating enough? That was part of my problem during that 5 years. I was not eating enough to really feel great and keep my cycle. But if somebody's struggling and I'll say, are you eating enough? They will typically say, I think so. I'm like, okay, well, let's find out. I do recommend that people fill out the total daily energy expenditure, gender, age, height, weight, and activity level. And it just gives a baseline estimate. So for my stats, it says 1,862 calories is what I need to just maintain. It turns out that what it took for me to feel satisfied would be the equivalent of 2 pounds of kind of regular beef. I can't say 2 pounds of meat because I can't eat 2 pounds of pork belly, but also I would need more than 2 pounds of ground chicken. So burger patties, sort of a middle of the road, 60-40 fat to protein calories. That would be 2 pounds of that, and I feel good. Well, it turns out 2 pounds of McDonald's burger patties or whatever burger patties you make that are quarter pound, 8 of those, is right at 1,862 calories. So I can look at that and say, okay, I'm eating enough. Now, a lot of people will say, well, now you need a deficit in order to lose weight. And I found there are people who say they do lose weight better with a deficit, and there are plenty of carnivores who say, I don't need that.
Yeah.
They will eat, in fact, far above. Again, this is just some. Some carnivores do keep tabs. I've got some very still OCD little carnivores in my groups, and they like to track it. And okay, I do not love to track it, but we're all different. Yeah. And so when they track, they say, I'm eating way more. One man typically eats twice what the TDE recommends. He has lost 150 pounds. Another woman calculates every day. She eats about 4 times her TDEE, which, holy cow, she's eating about 10 sticks of butter per day, by the way. That's how you get 4 times the amount.
Love it.
And she is thin and not gaining a pound. So it's not that everybody has to do this magical deficit. Yeah. It's also not that everybody can get away with eating 4 times as much.
Right.
The main use for me when it comes to calorie talk is just make sure you're getting enough. Yes. People can do fine eating more than is recommended. But if you are eating half of what is recommended day after day after day for months, I never see that go well. Your sleep will tank. You will never want to have sex. Your libido's in the toilet. Your hair is going to fall out. So many issues from eating too little.
Yes. So just to add to that, Kelly even mentioned with her under eating experience initially on the carnivore diet, you had no cycle. So you couldn't be fertile, couldn't have kids. I'm sure like a lot of females, when they under eat and they don't even know it, they start asking, well, why isn't my skin getting better? Why aren't my autoimmune issues improving yet? My hair is still falling out. And when you have a history of, let's say, the usual binging, restricting cycle, and then on top of that, you believed in the move more, eat less movement, right? And you ate salads and very little meat. Even worse, you were vegan, all of the above for me. You know, it takes so much time. And in my opinion, so much animal fats to get all of those things healed. So let's talk about healing from binging and sugar addiction. You have so much experience. And on top of that, you currently are studying to be an expert in this field as well. Talk a little bit about this topic, anything you want, because I know that you have so much to share.
All right. So thanks, Bella. All right. I'm working with Dr. Ifland, who I know you have a relationship with and have talked to multiple times. I love her too. Yeah. She has a certification for food addiction recovery advocate, the FARA program. It is typically designed for people who want to work within her ARC, the addiction recovery community. And that's not my goal, but I talked to her about it. I said, I just want to show up and take the classes and learn from you and then just use it within my own practice. Is that okay? And she's like, that is more than okay. She's so supportive of that. So in working with her, I learned some about binge-eating, something I didn't even put together for my own self. You had asked me before, was there anything surprising about this program? And this was kind of surprising. Back when I was in high school, so I was always kind of a big eater when it came to just having a big appetite, but I don't remember ever doing any binging or serious restriction until it was around prom time in high school. And when I realized, oh, it's time for prom and I don't like my body. I was pretty heavy, but it never really bothered me too much. My brother picked on me as a kid. He's cool now though. But as a kid, he sort of picked on me because he was really scrawny and I was really not. But I wanted to look good in prom pictures. So I put myself on this crazy lean cuisine diet where I would only allow myself 1 lean cuisine per day and 1 pack of Carnation instant breakfast. So lean cuisine's like 400 calories, the end. And I would drink a Carnation. And I did lose weight, Bella, but I was starving all day long. And I did that until prom when I could not take it anymore. And then, of course, I would go to the prom out to eat. The poor guy probably thought I was going to eat his face off because I was so hungry. I ate such a huge dinner and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad it's over. I can eat again. Yeah. And then, of course, I would just pile the pounds back on. Yeah. And then anytime something was coming up where I suddenly felt body conscious, oh, we know what to do, then I would starve myself again. And this yo-yo cycle continued. Well, let me look at her name. There's a woman named Catherine Hansen, and she has a book and a podcast called Brain Over Binge. And in listening to her and all of the information at the ARC, and they have some binge experts over there, they said that the cycle of binging starts with restriction. And that's what happened with me. They say people who just eat, you don't meet all that many guys with binge eating disorder. They just eat. They very rarely have maybe not cared enough. I know this is stereotypical, but maybe they didn't. My husband, at least, never cared enough about his body size to starve himself. He just ate. And so he does not currently nor ever have binge eating issues. So it's a primal survival instinct that makes so much sense. We are not damaged. We have brilliant bodies. And when my body in high school realized we're dying here, she's not feeding us. All it knows is food is not available. Right? Food is not available. And so when I would finally get real food, I could not stop. I would overeat to the point of pain. So, and when people ask me, what is binge eating? If you don't know, you probably don't have it. Right. But if you do know, then you understand that it's not just, oh, I ate a few too many chicken wings. It's like I ate, typically they say an average binge is around 3,000 calories in one sitting. Wow. I ate until I hurt and could not function normally. That's what that would mean. Yeah. So some people have to miss work the next day. They're up vomiting, not on purpose necessarily, but because they made themselves sick. That is binging. And it comes from this primal protective instinct of food hasn't been available, so now we must eat it all. And doesn't that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
So our bodies are wise. But then what happens is our bodies get a big dopamine hit from eating all of that food, and our bodies then become addicted to that hit, and it becomes a habit. So it's like, well, now food is readily available. There it is. I know that I'm eating, but your body's just in the habit of getting that hit. And so what the addiction experts say is, while fasting may work beautifully for some people, if you have a history of binge eating, it's one in the same cycle. So the cycle starts with not eating and finishes with major binges. And so some people will get a dopamine hit from not eating. And then in turn, they will also get, which is also, by the way, a primal response, because back in the day, if food was not available, at least this is what their people say, it makes sense to me. You might have to walk for 2 days to find, a herd of bison, right? Yeah. You're trying to find food. And so our natural inborn, I would say this would be like a gift from God, but our bodies are designed so that we will get a dopamine hit in the absence of food for an extended period of time. And it keeps us hunting, because otherwise you're just going to fall down and, starve. But it kept us going. Yeah. All right. So you get your dopamine hit from the fasting. And then what happens, people with a binge history, they are eating until they are sick. And then they feel shame and guilt. How could I do it again? You know what I have to do? I have to fast. And this cycle is a mental torment and a physical torment to some people. Now, that doesn't describe everybody. Yep. If my husband wanted to take up fasting, I would honestly be thrilled, because he'd just be eating less carbs. He's not a carnivore. Yeah. So that'd be great. Right. But it's really individualized. But a lot of folks over at the ARC are dealing with food addiction, food obsession, all day long food obsession, and going without food and having a set time increases their food obsession. Yes. Whereas, so what Dr. Iflin says is, if you have that history, then having a steady flow where you even reassure yourself, I will have a meal for breakfast if you're a breakfast eater. Yes. I'm not always, because I'm just not hungry in the mornings. But if I am hungry, I will eat breakfast. Yes. If I'm hungry at all, I can have lunch, and then I can have dinner. Mm-hmm. And for somebody with that past to know that food is coming, and it's okay. And somebody just yesterday said, yes, but what about all of the insulin spikes from eating 3 times a day? This is meat. This is not donuts. It's not going to have the same effect on my insulin as eating carbs and sugars. Mm-hmm. And I do check my insulin and my glucose. I've worn CGMs many times. I'm not getting spikes from eating meat. And again, this advice would really just be applicable to your food obsessed, food addicted, former binge eaters.
Yes. Fascinating. So fascinating. So you said what sets off the binge is really starting from the restriction. Yeah. Now, how does the actual food that you're eating, the nutrition, play into all of this, right? Because I'm thinking like all this research that Dr. Iflin has done, it's kind of on the standard American diet. But what about just meat, nutrient dense foods?
Yes. So there are people, again, typically who don't have that history, who can eat a huge meal. And Bella, I know that you have done this before and it's beautiful. You can eat 2 pounds maybe in one sitting, and then you are literally not hungry again for 24, maybe even 48 hours.
Yeah.
And if that feels really good to you and it doesn't spark food obsession, I think that's wonderful. And you're eating tons of fat, plenty of fat. You are getting what your body needs. Clearly, you look fantastic.
Oh, thank
so
you.
it's working. As for if somebody is still eating processed foods, that's not going to be the case. Right. And I would strongly suggest, I know this is no shock to anybody, like, let's get off the sugar. Let's get off of these addictive foods that make it impossible to know if you're hungry or not. It wouldn't matter if you'd had 2,000 calories in a day. If they're carbs and sugars, you will be hungry again because they are designed that way. Yeah. They are designed to keep you coming back for more and more. They will not satisfy ultimately. They're not satiating. They're addictive. You can't fast easily on a standard American diet because your blood sugar's crazy and you're ingesting dyes and you're just an addict. It'd be like, trying to smoke your 1 cigarette per day. That's going to be a struggle.
Truly. These foods and cigarettes, all of these things, I think Dr. Iffen likes to use the word, gosh, what word does she use?
Well, she'll say like highly addictive substances.
Yes, substances.
Substances. That's right.
She even says the processed carbs and the junk, all of that is a substance. So they were designed to have our brains and bodies completely hooked, just wanting more, could not survive until we get that hit. So I do want to emphasize for our viewers, especially our new ladies who are struggling, Kelly and I did not get to this place of food freedom and ultimate, health overnight. We took years. I'm almost 4 years, but you are 12 and a half years, Kelly. So all this hard work is a long haul, a long journey, consistent commitment. So in the beginning, when you first started Carnivore, you have shared many times, you initially gained weight, 25 pounds to be exact. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So on my own, doing that 5 years of just based on what my doctor said when I had not met the carnivores, he told me some solid advice in that 5-minute conversation. But he didn't give me everything I needed. He did not say, also, Kelly, in the absence of these carbohydrates, I'm going to need you to eat a lot of fat. That was not mentioned. No shame to him, but that was a pretty important detail that I just didn't get. And if he did say it, I don't remember it. But when I met the carnivores, the real group of zero carbers in 2009, they said, also, if you're having cravings, it's probably because of the Diet Dr. Pepper. And also, are you eating a lot of fatty meat? And I was like, I eat a lot of rotisserie chicken. And they were like, whoa, you're going to need more fat than a rotisserie chicken. I was like, but I include the skin. No. That's good for a day or two. That's fine. But honestly, they said fatty beef if you want your cycle back. And I said, like, all of the fatty beef. They're like, all the fatty beef. Well, I was fascinated but skeptical. But I went all in, as you and a couple other people call it, all in carnivore. And I was ravenous. I had held back, put sort of a mental block, sort of like I think new carnivores do when I see them today, eating these tiny steaks and saying they're full. I was pretending I've had enough. I had not had enough. But when they said, like, the more the better, okay, let's do this, go time, I ate approximately, I wasn't weighing anything, but I'm betting, thinking back, it was probably 3 pounds of fatty beef per day. And I couldn't eat any less if I had tried. It's like I had released something within me that could not be held back. So I felt amazing right off the bat. I remember telling James, this was 2 houses ago, but I remember standing in that kitchen saying, like, oh my gosh, I feel so good. It tastes so good. And all was great for like the first week or so. And then I stepped on the scale and I was like, I think I've gone up a couple pounds. And my husband, a non-carnivore, was like, you think? I mean, I was eating so much meat. He's like, what did you think was going to happen? I was like, well, not this. I actually thought I was going to lose some weight. He's like, well, I mean, okay. He He wasn't surprised at all. Yeah. So I go back to my group. I was talking to them every day. I said, I stepped on the scale and I'm up a couple pounds.
Yes.
And they were like, look, it's all about health. You want a baby. It's about your cycle. Focus on what you want. Right. Weight fluctuates every day. It's probably water weight. I was like, yeah, probably water weight. Okay. Another week goes by and I was weighing every day. But, at the end of a week, there's something about I'm up 3 more pounds and I'll, slowly creeping up. And so I would report back. I don't think it's water weight because I've gained more. I was freaking out, Bella. And I see this. I know you went through it and I see it happen with women and I'm always so empathetic and they're like, I'm sorry to complain. I'm like, no, I'm sure a total pain in their butts, but they just kept saying, you have been hard on your body for a long time. This is going to take time. Your body is like starving for every little morsel it can get and it's not going to let go until it is thoroughly convinced that you're not going to do that to it again. Yes. So just keep eating. They said the worst thing you could do at this point, the worst thing would be go back to carbs. But I think they were pretty sure I wasn't going to do that. And the second thing would be to stop eating at this point because it's just going to reset this idea of, oh, she's starving us again. Yes. So I kept eating. And at around 6 months, it's not like I just woke up one day and was like, oh, I'm not so hungry. But I started to notice I get full a little sooner. It wasn't dramatic, but it's like I wasn't starved to death. There was an ease to it. It just suddenly was like, oh, so now 2 pounds of meat feels good. And people have said, oh, so you started eating less. I couldn't have made myself do this. I didn't rush the process. Yes. It just was enough. Yes. And so then the weight started to come off quicker than it had come on. And it didn't take but maybe 8 weeks for that 20, it was really, I think, 23 pounds, 23 to 25 pounds to come back off. Yeah. And then I was pregnant. So so it was like, I'm back to what I thought was my right. Oh, you're pregnant. So I gained weight then too. But that was the whole point.
Yes.
And I was thrilled.
What you touched on is so awesome because you focused on initially when you start carnivore, really just trust that appetite. If it is a ravenous, unleash the beast, bottomless pit type of appetite, you kind of have no choice but to listen to that because like Kelly said, you've abused your body for so long, it remembers the trauma. You touched on fat, high fat. How important is fat to you from day one compared to you now? I'm curious.
Okay, so now that I have fed my body for a good long while, if I have a day where I just want to eat a bunch of chicken thighs, it's okay. It's like I'm not on the edge of this starvation now. If I want some shrimp for a day or two, I can even do 2 days without high fat. But even still, 12 and a half years later, after about 2 days of realizing, oh, I have eaten leaner, I have to have fat. And I know I need it because when I look in the fridge, it's like the butter sticks and their glow. Like I need them. And I tell people ask me how much fat do I need? And I could say things about digestion. I know Dr. Chaffee says this really well too. If you're not pooping easily, you probably need more fat. If you're running to the bathroom, you might need a little less fat. But also when you, with your eyes and your body, open a fridge, are you drawn to the butter? Does it really appeal to you? And your body knows what it needs better than any carnivore coach does. And if you're craving it, and I have even encouraged people before, hold it. Just take out, I know this sounds nuts, but hold the butter and look at it. And you can even say, if somebody just told me over the weekend, her name is Vicky. I had such a great conversation with her in New Jersey. She trusts her body so much that she will stand and hold, whether it's a supplement or a stick of butter or a food that she's not, like dairy, if she's not sure if it's good for her, she will hold it and say what it is. And she'll say like, this is butter. This is good for my body. And she says that something within her, she sort of feels like, I know this sounds nuts, but I think there's something to it that you're kind of drawn towards it when it's something that your body knows. And it's funny to me that people will think, well, that sounds crazy, but you're going to trust an internet stranger to tell you if you should have butter? Yeah. Me? You're going to trust me and Bella more than you holding it and thinking, does my body need this?
Yeah.
And you're going to feel sort of a pull. Or she says sometimes she feels her body almost like move away from it. Like, no, I don't need it. Now, if that doesn't work for somebody, then just ask me and Bella. We'll gladly tell you if you should eat butter.
Yes. Yes.
It's fine. I think butter is
love it.
wonderful for a lot of people, or beef tallow or higher fat, particularly if somebody says, I'm having anxiety, depression, anything mental wise. Okay, we got to up those fats, baby.
Yes.
Constipation, all of the fats.
All of it.
Yeah.
Sleep issues also really benefits you for the fats. And again, hormone issues. If you're female, irregular cycles, or you have no cycle, up the fats and your body will thank you. So yes, you don't need to trust us strangers on the internet. Hold that butter if you want, or just even better, take a little sliver, see how that makes your brain and body feel, and then go back to it if you feel really good. So you kind of have to just unlearn a lot of things that we have been taught our whole lives, right? Like cholesterol or animal fats cause heart attacks, clog your arteries. I hear that all the time to this day from strangers when they see me eat. But you overcome it when you feel how fantastic you get to feel on the carnivore diet. So one more question I'll wrap up with. We touched on fat to protein ratio a little bit, how much to eat, your experience from day one to now, like your evolution. Now, what about frequency of eating? How frequent did you eat at the start, and how did that kind of evolve to today?
Well, at the start, I ate all day long because I was hungry. I just basically all day was like, maybe another bowl of beef, maybe another bowl of beef. I ate so often. Now, I said I don't typically wake up hungry. If I do, I know almost right away, and I'll just have something. Whether it's typically, if I want breakfast, I will just eat some butter. Or if I scramble eggs for my kids about 365 days a year, so it's easy for me to throw some eggs, a few extra in there for me, or 5, and I'll eat those. But most days I eat a big lunch, which I would consider, for me, that is 1 pound of meat makes me feel like, and I say that loosely again, if it's a pound of pork belly, I can't eat a pound. If it's chicken, I'm going to need more than a pound. 1 pound of burger patties is very common for me. And then I do that again at dinner. I'll typically finish off another pound of burger patties or steak. If it's a really high fat meal, it might just be, let's say, half a pound. But now it's pretty easy for me to know that's enough. I feel good. And if people are new, they probably will not know, oh, that's enough. It's hard at first to know when you're really hungry, to know when you're really full. And so, like you were saying, to experiment with the butter, self-experimentation is good. Try eating a pound. And if you find, oh gosh, I was still hungry 2 hours later, okay, cook more tomorrow, have more. Just try things to see what works, and know that there are some things that probably don't work for anybody. And I would say that living off of lean chicken breasts, living off of lean fish, lean shrimp all day long we are all humans. We might be different, but I'm sorry, we're humans. That's probably not going to work long for anybody. Under eating is not going to work long for anybody. And eating processed sugary carbs, it's just not working for people. We can look around and see that. But other than that, fatty meats, you can, tweak around. How does pork? People say, can I eat pork? Have you tried pork? Like, how did you feel? I can, and others can, but just try it. Maybe go 2 weeks without if you feel lousy. See if that fixes it. And if not, maybe try something else.
I love your idiot proof, just, it really is, so simple. You can't possibly overthink this. And I have to say, just hearing you talk live is a whole new experience, because I have watched your videos. I've listened to you for the past 3.5 years. I just feel so honored, Kelly. Thank you for all the hard work that you put into your content, your work, and your advocacy for this lifestyle. You really are so amazing.
Thanks, Bella. I am a huge fan of yours. I love you. You're just beautiful. Your content, even like your reels and TikToks, they're funny, they're clever. You're doing great things. And I'm happy to talk to you anytime.
Oh, you are amazing. So wrap up with any exciting announcements you would like to share. Please do talk about your groups too.
So I'm feeling August, I think, only has like 5 spots left. So I'll be posting September soon. I do really tiny groups because that's what I'm used to. I say tiny, 30. I taught school for 20 years, and that's just what I know and what I feel comfortable with. I know there are plenty of people who consider that a large group. So I know some coaches prefer like 5 people, but I can do 30. Yeah. I do 6 of those per month. And I do have a YouTube channel, my Zero Carb Life. I don't post on there very often. I'm not a YouTuber, but when I have something I want to say, that's where I do it. Yes. And if that's 2 months, if there's 2 months between, and sometimes it is, then in 2 months, I'll say what I have to say and then go think about it.
Seriously, follow Kelly Hogan's YouTube channel, because when you do have your videos out, it truly is like bursts of genius, you know? And then when you take your break, it's like collecting all that genius and hard work and studying, because I know you're spending a lot of time studying. So follow Kelly. All socials are linked down below. I hope to have you back on the channel. If you guys have any follow-up questions, feel free to comment it down below. And again, show some love to Kelly Hogan on all her socials. Thank you for being here, Kelly.
Thanks, Bella. Anytime. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you all so much for watching to the very end. As always, please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notifications to not miss my future carnivore videos and interviews. I also highly encourage you guys to share this video with your friends, family, coworkers, anybody in your circle who you think can benefit from trying out the carnivore diet. If you would like to join my next 30-day carnivore challenge and get the chance to meet Kelly Hogan, as well as Dr. Anthony Chaffee, Professor Bart Kay, Coach Raymond Nazon, Coach Jess Henvard, and John Venus, all in 1 month, please do go to sbgmeetup.com for all details, schedules, and how to sign up. I will see you in my next video. Have a good day. Thank you for watching.